Hello everybody and welcome to this talk named Fun with Flags. First, before talking about feature flags, let me introduce myself quickly because we only have 20 minutes. I'm obviously not Sheldon Cooper, neither Jean Beru. My first name is not Jean, my last name is not Beru. I'm Hubert Lenoir, tech lead at Sensio Labs, married with children, marié 2 enfants, and I live in Roubaix, France. So, we will talk about feature flags. Before going further, we'll just see what are feature flags and what kind of feature flags exist. And before starting, how many people use feature flags in their applications? Okay, 50%, great. So I will talk about some kind of feature flags and why you can use them. You should, but not necessarily. First, what are feature flags? Feature flags will allow you to add or remove some behavior of your application, but without changing any line of code, without redeploying your application, and it will add a lot of make your development a lot easier. But you have to keep in mind that with great power comes great responsibility. Feature flags can add some complexity to your code. And you have to keep in mind to clean your feature, etc., etc. We will see that later. Okay, I confess I talked about feature flags to my team a few times. Many more than few times. They even create a meme for that. So I will talk about feature flag once again. Okay, should I use feature flag in my project? It's working fine, maybe you're already using it. And if not, why should I use them? But as I said previously, it will add flexibility to your application. You can deploy a feature even if it's not finished, or compared to version, you can turn off a specific feature which is broken, can turn on the feature, etc., very easily. But again, you have to keep in mind that it will bring complexity to your application, and it will be too much complex to handle if you have too many flags. Okay, let's see 4 kinds of feature flags. Each one has a very specific goal. And let's start with the release flag, the release toggle, whatever you want to name it. So the release flags mainly used to test in-progress features. Like testing in-progress features, I don't mean that you have a staging environment to test your application, but it's really to test your new feature directly in production, because in production you may have different data in your database. Every project I worked on has some weird data in production, mainly due to users, but that's fine. Let's try your feature with production database. And it can be great when you have a client or product owner who want to test your application, even if it's not fully validated. If your product owner change its mind every time, like Kevin. For example, I also want to test a new feature, and I can push it, for example, a feature to test the new color schema. I want to test the dark theme, the dark mode. So I can push this feature and only enable it for the product owner. I can change after that the feature. The main user won't see anything. Okay, a second one. a common use case also to use experiment flags. What is an experiment flag? It will allow you to compare application version. Maybe you want to change the behavior of a feature and you're not sure that it will be a good decision. So you may want to deploy both versions of this feature and make a decision later. An important thing is that you should, or must, maybe, be followed by metrics to make a decision. You can't compare two versions and say, yes, this one is better. No, you have to prove it. So you have to take metrics. For example, I want to change the card layout of my my e-commerce website. So maybe my purchase button is orange. Oh, maybe in green it could be better. So you can enable this feature for maybe 20% of your users randomly. Not exactly randomly because you have to stick the user session. If he has the feature, he should have the feature later. Then maybe my button is green and oh, great, 10% purchase. Okay, let's increase this this feature to maybe 15% user, etc., etc., until you reach 100%. And then, if everything is okay, you just have to put this new behavior in your application, remove the old flags, and see the money come. Okay. Another kind of flag, the permission flags. Permission flags, maybe already you use it with the security component. You can control access to some feature, maybe a paid feature or just a permission management. For example, you can use like the security component. You have the role, the permission to access to a feature, but it can also be related to other things that the current user maybe. Do you use the company's VPN? Okay, if so, you will not have a forbidden response, but okay, you use a VPN, you can use this feature. And the last one is the operational feature flag, mainly used for to infrastructure problems. You can see it as a security build. When you roll out a feature, maybe you deploy a new feature, but you're not sure if it will work or not. Okay, you deploy it. In case of emergency, you can turn it off, and okay, then you can remove the flag to clean up, of course. This kind of flag can be long-lived. The case if you want to have an emergency button, maybe my website use a recommendation layer under my cart, for example, it can consume some resources. So if resources are low, maybe my website is under high load, I can disable this feature and keep my website on. Okay, a quick reminder, release to test in progress feature, experiment to compare application version, A/B testing, etc. You can also under permission on your website to control access to specific feature, and operational, more for technical purpose, like maybe a new algorithm to compute some data. Let's see a quick type distribution taken from the Martin Fowler website to see where can you put your toggle in this graph, depending on their longevity or dynamism. Okay, let's talk about code. Okay, another feature flag library. For example, the Split.io PHP client, Unleashed has a PHP client, a bundle also, Launch.ly 2, OpenFeature has a PHP SDK 2. OpenFeature is more specification, but also an SDK. So there's a lot of existing library. But I have more problem. Before going further, okay, I talk about the security component. So why should I use a new feature flag component or just a security component? It could be fine. The security component is related to the current user, so you are restricted to him. Also, when you use the security component, you can authenticate, and after that, Symfony will route your request. So since authentication is done after routing, you can, for example, route your user depending on some feature flags. If you don't have the permission to access to a controller, you will have a forbidden error code. You can't redirect directly, not easily. And last thing, I don't have any external provider in this component. If I want to use Unleashed, I have to make my own code. Okay, so our needs. Of course, I want this component to be simple. Of course, maybe some debug. It can be hard to debug when your flags are defined in a SaaS service or another API. And I also want to switch between sources. If I use an API on my production, maybe I want to use an in-memory provider for my tests, or database provider, whatever. And of course, I want a lot of supported sources. For example, I may want to have an hard-coded value. Maybe the last step before the definitive integration of my feature, and then I can remove this hard-coded value. Or from a callback can be more dynamic depending on the host name, on a special header, whatever. And it can be taken from a database. You can build your own management system with that, and data can also come from an external sources, maybe an API or Unleashed, LaunchDarkly, etc. Also, it should be cacheable because not specifically for the hard-coded or callback values, but from database or external source. I don't want to make an HTTP request or a database request each time I access to my page. So let's try a simple implementation of a provider which is responsible to return a feature flag value, for example, a closure or null, if this kind of feature is not handled by this provider. Just an example. And maybe another method to get names to return all supported feature flags. Okay, then we can use it maybe like an in-memory provider. You can pass value directly in this provider and use it later in a feature checker. Okay, let's use a in-memory provider. For example, I can define a validated values feature, which always return a Boolean true. Okay, my feature is validated. Maybe I may want to remove this feature flag later. Okay, it can be more dynamic. Maybe I want to open my feature only on weekends. Okay, not a problem. It could be anything, any kind of type. Not a problem. I can return a random integer between 1 or 3. Maybe the version application to use, for example. Okay, I pass it to my feature checker, and I can use maybe two methods is enabled to check over Boolean, to check Booleans and see, okay, I have the feature or not. Or a get value if the value is not a Boolean to get the version to use. Very simple like that. Okay, if you want to take a look, there is the pull request. 2 years ago, I started this pull request thanks to Adrien, also who co-authors this pull request. Okay, but we are in the API Platform conference, so I may want to talk about API Platform. How can I use it in a project using API Platform? Okay, thanks to Antonio, who backports the component into a separated bundle, you can try it in your application, your current application. Keep in mind that I said, try it. This bundle won't evolve, it's just a backport of the current component, just to try it. If you have any opinion on this component, you can go to the pull request or send me a Slack if you want to. Okay, so how can I use it? For example, you can decorate your provider, your API platform provider, inject the decorated provider, use a feature checker, and loop over maybe extra properties I added in my operation to list every feature needed to get this feature. Okay, if one of these feature flag is not enabled, okay, an access denied is returned, and that's all. If everything is okay, let's pass the request to the decorated provider. Then I can define a feature. Thanks to the bundle, a feature is just a callable, as we saw previously. And why not declaring a feature from a service? Thanks to the asFeature attribute, I can do that. In the service, I can inject whatever I want, and then it will get the value using the invoke method by default, but you can pass any method you want. Okay, and then the last step is to secure the operation, define the extra properties, and that's all. Your operation is secure now. Okay, I have a centralized feature definition and can reuse my feature flag between operations. I can easily switch between providers. Yeah, but I only saw the in-memory provider. So, okay, let's see another provider. You just see the GitLab provider. For example, GitLab can provide a feature flag system. And under the hood, it uses the Unleash API. Okay, I just have to use the Unleash SDK and its builder to build a client to talk with Unleash. Okay, so I declare the builder, I use the builder as a factory, and pass environment, a URL, instance ID, HTTP client from Symfony, or a cache handler from Symfony, and everything is okay. Just a note about Unleashed, it won't cache the value of the feature, because you will have to cache a value for every users. It will cache the definition of the feature, and the value will be resolved in PHP. So the cache will help you to have a quick code. And then you just have to use again a factory to have your client. Okay, then you have to create a provider, like we saw previously. I inject the Unleash client. I define the get method using the Unleash client. I can pass a context if I want to, because you can open feature to predefined users, for example. And then you will have a little profiler, could be improved later, if your feature flag is enabled or not. Okay, last step, why using feature flags? Deploy continuously. You won't have to create a branch, deploy a branch separately. You deploy on production every time. I can test two specific versions. If I want to switch from, I don't know, I want to use a JSON streamer in my API, maybe I just want to open it to 10%, see the metrics from my servers, and maybe go to 20, 15, and 100%. If it doesn't work, I can turn off quickly without redeploying or changing any line of code. And also, I can separate my code deployment from my feature release. But keep in mind that it requires a management system. I hope it will be the feature flag component. You have to clean up your style and use flag, because if you keep them, you will have some combination, and more feature you have, more combination you will have, more tests you will have to write, and it could be very complex to handle. And then could lead to technical debt. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. If you have any question, we don't have time to, sorry for that, but I stay here for today. And you can contact me on Slack if you want to. Thank you for your attention.